In the previous video, I told us that something will happen on Friday. That is either a universal, a unilateral ceasefire. What that means essentially is that America will stop fighting Iran, but Iran will not stop fighting America, and certainly Iran will not stop fighting Israel. De facto, Trump would abandon Israel in the hands of Iran. He has done it before. Yes. Sometimes last year, sometimes 1.5 years ago, I don't remember. Trump fought the Houthis for 3 months, and when he discovered that after he had three fighter jets, three FA-18s had been shot down, the Houthis almost shot down an F-35, and they were almost going to sink the. It was a Harry Truman then. That was the American aircraft carrier that was involved. Trump declared a unilateral ceasefire and essentially abandoned the Israelis in the hands of the Houthis. He has done it before and he can do it again. The second scenario is Trump goes to war for the Strait of Hormuz. And I said in the previous video that if Trump decides to go to war, for the Strait of Hormuz, then the populations, the citizens of Iran and Israel will matter a lot. Why would they matter? Because of a populational citizen level fatigue. They have fought for 1 month already. The population, the citizens of Iran have taken a massive pelting. As a last count, close to 2,000 Iranians are already dead, apart from the personal loss of the former supreme leader, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, his wife, several members of his family, and the injury of even his son who was, brought in as the replacement supreme leader. And then don't forget the 160 school girl children who were killed in Mina to start the war. And ever since then, they've lost up to 2,000 citizens. The Israelis too have taken massive pelting. They've not lost that much in terms of deaths, but they've taken massive injury level casualties to the tune of close to 5,000. Although currently they are claiming just 13 deaths. The Israelis and the way they doctor their numbers, especially when it comes to casualties, but that is not the issue. Now, why do the population, do the populations matter? If Trump goes to war for the Strait of Hormuz, if the war will end, when it will end, who will surrender for who? Who is more likely going to declare a universal ceasefire for the order between the Americans, between the Iranians and the Israelis? Will be determined by how resilient the population is. Let us start from Iran. The Iranians are an extremely resilient people. They are staunchly behind their leaders. In fact, they are the major reason why the leaders have not surrendered and declared a universal ceasefire, on their own side in favor of Trump. They keep pushing their leaders. They keep encouraging their leaders. They keep, what the boys on the streets in Nigeria will call ginger. They keep giving their leaders ginger to continue to fight, despite the massive personal losses they're suffering. However, there are reasons they are like that. You see, a big part of it is the history. They did their revolution in 1979. Barely a year after, America came for them. All of the countries that came together to fight them this time are almost all of the countries that came together to fight them back then, just 1 year after the revolution, 1980, when they had not stabilized at all. There were no weapons, there were no ballistic missiles, there were no drones, there was nothing. It was a very young revolution, a very young country, almost nothing in terms of armory. And then they sent Saddam Hussein to come and do battle with them, a massive war. Saddam Hussein had everything. He had Scud missiles, he had chemical weapons, he had biological weapons, he had nerve gas, horrible chemical attacks that was killing them in droves. In fact, over 1 million Iranians and the other guys actually lost their lives during the war. Massive casualty compared to the 2,000 thereabouts number now. So the Americans sent Saddam Hussein to them, and he did battle with them when they were absolutely defenseless and not prepared for it. For how many years? For 80 years, 1980 to 1988. They essentially gave their lives in return. Massive casualties, but one way or the other, they won and they retained their territory. And from then on, the Iranians told themselves, never again. You see, the vast majority of the leaders who are leading Iran today, including the ones that have been killed by America, generation by generation, and they've been replacing themselves with their subordinates up to 3, 4, 5, 7 generations. Were all veterans during the 1980 to 1988 war. Sayyid Ali Khamenei himself was a veteran. He fought in the Iran-Iraq war for 8 years. His son Mujtaba, who is currently 56, also fought in the war. The war started when he was 11. He joined the war when he was 17 and ended the war with them. Qasem Soleimani, the general who was killed by Trump back then in the early 2020s, was also fought in the war. In fact, Professor Marandi, that America, as in that soft-spoken, brilliant professor who speaks effortless English, also fought in the war. He was 16. In fact, he suffered chemical attacks twice. Aragshi fought in the war, the current foreign minister. Larijani, who was just assassinated, fought in the war. All those generals were all veterans of the Iran-Iraq war. So not only did they keep up, with that culture, did they remember vividly, they also passed on the message to their people, to their children, to their progeny. How did their progeny take the message? They took it to heart. The people of Iran are so fearless. So fearless that when America was bombing them from the air with fighter jets, they would refuse to leave the streets day and night. I have never seen such a fearless group of people before. So fearless that, the Kharj Island that the Americans are coming for. Do you know that civilian Iranians have actually taken boats and all sorts of water-based transport to the island and have occupied, civilians, not military now, they have occupied the island, waving flags, doing demonstrations and rallies in favor, of their leaders. And they know that these Americans are coming for that island. And when they come, they're going to kill everybody. They are that fearless. Iranians are so kind to their people, are so united, in ensuring that their territory does not fall in the hands of the enemies, any enemy whatsoever. That I read of a story where an Iranian shopkeeper who owns a small supermarket actually left his supermarket open. Do you know what he did? He now wrote a notice on paper and stuck it on the door of his supermarket. What was the notice? Go in, if you need anything, go into my supermarket and pick it. After the war, come and pay. Look at that kind of national psyche. Look at that kind of readiness, that kind of citizenship awareness. Look at that kind of readiness to come together in favor of the leadership, in favor of the military of the country, to keep pushing them to keep fighting and resisting the enemy. And that is one of the major reasons why the Iranians have been performing fantastically in this war. As we speak, Iranians that have volunteered to fight against the Americans in case they come in for a grand invasion have now exceeded 1 million. How does America want to fight a 1 billion strong army, professional and volunteer? It is a practically impossible task, even from the populational level. And where did that come from? That came from the collective national psyche. That is why Iran has been fighting for a whole month. America has bombed them with no less than 15,000 bombing sorties. And yet, they have not surrendered. And they have been using that citizenship encouragement to actually fight back at the enemy. And currently, Iran is on the winning side. You can see how the Iranian population have actually been pushing their leaders, pushing their military to essentially continue the culture of resistance. That is a huge reason why Iran is still fighting, why Iran is still winning, and why Iran is still resisting. In the next video, I'm going to tell you how things are working for the citizenry of Israel, and then you can compare and contrast, and you can make your decisions. Again, don't forget to like, to comment, to share, to subscribe, and ask your questions. I will gladly answer them. See you in the next video. Thank you very much.